What's up guys, Mark back here with another video on the A6500. I did put out my review video a couple of days ago, so if you haven't watched that yet, go ahead and check that out first. It's a bit of a long one, but I wanted to provide as many different samples as I possibly could. With my current skill level at tracking fast moving objects, which is almost nil, I just don't do it, it's just not my thing. But that being said, I also took into account what you guys said on my vlog video a few days prior to that, and I asked you all for a lot of different questions so that I could hem up one of the Sony guys and get those questions answered. Well, when I got there, it was becoming abundantly clear that there were no official Sony engineers there. Apparently they were supposed to have been there, but something precluded them from actually making the trip. At any rate, there were plenty of product managers and stuff there that could actually talk to me about the Sony A6500 and have some of these other questions answered that you guys had. And I did ask all of them. I really did. I put them under the interrogation spotlight. Without further ado, let's get on with this interrogation.
Hi, I'm LD Nordia with Sony Digital Imaging Team, and I'm the Senior Product Information Manager.
Why was the A6500 released so soon after the A6300, and why didn't the A6300 just have those additional features in the first place?
Well, I guess it's like a lot of technologies, and you know, I really anticipated that was going to be your first question anyway. So, you know, like a lot of technologies, it's really what's available at the time in terms of device technology, and then also, you know, in the design and production cycle. And the 6300, you know, the A6500 is not a replacement at all for the 6300, and it's not a case of fixing anything that was wrong with the 6300, since nothing really was changed that was, you know, everything that was in the 6300 carried over to the 6500. So it really was about available device technology and, you know, really response to consumer feedback. And we had such a phenomenal response to the A6300 as a step up from the A6000, a huge growth in the market for us, big adoption from many different users, and then a lot of people basically gave us a lot of, you know, really great consumer feedback in terms of how they were using the cameras and what they would like to see on the next device. And you know, obviously Sony responds, and we listen to our customers, and we went from the 6300, took those features, saw what we could improve, saw what we could add onto the camera. I mean, you know, to me the most amazing thing is the in-body image stabilization, that they managed to get it in a body that's almost exactly the same size. So I guess in a sense it's a case of why not, you know, if we had things available and we could respond to market demand, why would we wait longer just to say, okay, well, we have this in the market, you know, let's wait until we, you know, people use it for a long enough period of time and then go to the next model. You know, like I said, we don't see it as a replacement to the 6300, we see it as a step up from the 6300.
What is your all's commitment level to the APS-C lens line? You know, are we going to see any 2.8 zooms like a 24-70 or a 70-200 with a APS-C E-mount lens? And the firmware updates, especially for the A6000, are you all done with those? And
right. Well, you know, obviously I can't talk about future plans and technology. That's something that Sony keeps secret. But what I can tell you is that we're continuously developing, you know, obviously lenses and firmware and cameras to respond to the market. So it's a difficult thing to answer. Yes, we're going to do something specifically, and yes, you know, this is the lens that we're going to do specifically. But as you've seen, in, you know, even in the last year, in the last 6 months, the amount of new products that we've come out with, you know, everything from, you know, the refresh to the RX line and a new model there using the same technology that we put into the A6500, you know, the new 6500, and a couple of new lenses that have been, you know, in the last 4 months, I think we've released 4 lenses. So we're going to continue developing and responding to the market as market demands.
When do you have an estimate, perhaps, about when a release for a dual card slot on the APS-C line of cameras, is that even a thing?
You know, again, it's the same answer. You know, we can't talk about new technologies or new products that we're developing, but again, you know, we're getting feedback from consumers in terms of what they want. So, you know, as technology and space and, you know, technology devices permit, you know, we'll obviously be looking at what is capable in the future.
Does Sony have any plans to create a proper external battery vertical grip, a lot like the Fujifilm did for the X-T2?
You know, that's a fantastic question, because that's one that I keep on asking our product designers and product planners and developers in Japan. We get that question a lot, and you know, there are third-party options out there, which, you know, some are okay, some are not great, and you know, personally, I'd love to see one. I don't have any feedback on if or when that's even going to come. I personally, I hope soon.
Me too. Me too. I really do. Will the A65 firmware ever be updated so that the touchscreen isn't solely dedicated to touch focusing?
Again, it's a, you know, future question that I really don't have the answer to. Okay. You know, it would be great, right? So one of the first things when I touched the camera as well was, well, how do I control the menu system? I'm sure there's a reason for it not being in the model right now. You know, it does give you some functionality during playback. You know, double tap on the screen, you can zoom in and move your image around, which is great. You know, and obviously for the main feature for pulling focus is phenomenal, but, you know, I don't know. Will
the A6500, will it be able to output 10-bit 422 through the HDMI via firmware update, possibly?
No. So basically that is a camera hardware limitation in terms of these cameras. So both on the you know, in fact, the entire Sony line of alpha mount cameras up to the A99 Mark II and the A7R Mark II, those are 8-bit 420 internal, and then external is 8-bit 422 uncompressed.
Do you have any answer as far as why was the decision made to keep it 8-bit even through the HDMI cable?
Well, one of the limitations on the camera in terms of outputting such a high bit rate, and you can see that, you know, when you get to the step-up cameras, you know, like the FS7 for instance, there is a tremendous amount of power that's needed to generate, you know, 8-bit.
And room to cool it.
And, well, that was the next thing, is the heatsink, right, to cool it as well. And as such a small, compact camera, you know, our priority tends to focus on what the you know, the mass market is going to require on that particular camera. So for the price point and the size and the feature set, you know, putting in something like image stabilization, for instance, and the touchscreen was a higher priority than looking at something like going from 8-bit to 10-bit for the amount of people that would use this camera for that purpose.
Do you guys have any plans for an E-mount lens refresh, such as, like, you know, the 16-70 and the 18-105 are good, but a few people feel like maybe they're getting a little stale at this point. How about maybe even an upgraded kit lens, you know, as a replacement to the 16-50?
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't had that question before, but I actually think the 16-50 lens is a really solid lens. I mean, for the size and the performance of a kit lens, I haven't seen a kit lens like that on literally any other brand that I've ever tested, to be honest with you. So, you know, I understand the need or the desire for folks wanting, you know, refreshes to lenses. And again, you know, we continually look at, you know, feedback from the market. We continually look at what is, you know, available device technology, and you know, also look at where the priorities are in terms of utilizing our resources correctly. You know, and there's a lot of demands at different levels in terms of lenses of what people would like and what people would need. So yes, the answer is we're always looking at what lenses we can refresh, what new lenses we can develop. If it's those specific ones, I can't say.
This is actually a question I had personally. Does the A6500 have an anti-aliasing filter?
It does.
It does, okay. And why does the autofocus assist not work with speedlights?
Actually, that's something I'm not 100% sure on. I'd have to double check that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people have had a lot of questions about either the reasons why there is some level of inconsistency with overheating in the models. Of course, none of us have gotten a huge amount of time with the A6500 yet to really put it through its paces, but the A6300, I have yet to be able to make this A6300 overheat. A lot of other people have said, you know, sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. I think a lot of it has to do with environmental factors and stuff like that. But is there just a technical barrier to being able to do extremely long form video and not being able to dissipate the heat fast enough for the codec that's built in?
So there's a number of questions that came up there, and I'm going to try and answer them in the best order. So you're absolutely correct. The first answer is it really depends on the environmental circumstances, and also depends on the settings on the camera, you know, and how people have been using it. So, you know, continuous use over and over and over again is going to, you know, obviously generate and retain heat in the camera unless it, you know, has time to cool down. And, you know, we're talking about, you know, XAVCS, you know, up to 100 megabit per second 4K video in a camera that's truly tiny. It's an incredible amount of power and processing that is required. So, you know, if it's hot and humid and if there's continuous use, you know, that type of thing is going to build up. So it really is going to be case by case. The other thing is in terms of continuous use, you know, remember these cameras aren't primarily designed for 4K video, as a 4K video camcorder or video camera is designed specifically for video.
For long form video.
For long form video, you know, and that's one of the primary reasons why you have different cameras in different segments. Otherwise you would have one camera fits all, which you don't have. You know, these cameras are limited to, you know, 29 minutes, 59 seconds, like any other still camera is limited, and that's a US tariff issue. It's not anything to do with the device capability. The device is capable of going longer if it wasn't for that. And you know, it's one of those situations where, again, you know, it really depends on how the camera's been used and for how long. But again, you know, one single take is going to be max at 29:59. Now, the other thing that you can do is use the external recorder and go clean HDMI out to an external recorder, either in, you know, 4K or HD. And in that sense, the camera actually will record longer form and typically would not, you know, heat up as much because of the processing is reduced.
Can we ever realistically hope for a truly global shutter in this small of a form factor?
Oh, I could truly hope for that as well. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah.
You know, it goes back to, yeah, we can hope, we can desire, and we ask that question a lot.
Is it technically feasible?
You know, right now you have a look at the cameras that it's in. You know, the F55, for instance, is really the starting point for global shutter, and it's an extremely expensive and complicated camera. Right. And, you know, very expensive. Well, you know, higher level. There's obviously a lot of processing, you know, required for that. There's a lot of cost in building a sensor like that. So yeah, we obviously could hope, and, you know, as technology pushes forward, you know, if you had asked anybody, you know, 5-10 years ago, could you hope for, you know, a camera that can literally fit in your pocket that could shoot 4K and 11 frames a second at 24 megapixels continuous, people would say you're absolutely crazy, you know. But here it is. You know, the A6500 can do all those amazing things. So yeah, let's keep on asking, let's keep on hoping, and, you know, maybe one day we'll have a global shutter in a smaller camera like this. I could truly hope so.
So there you go, there you have it. All your questions answered in one quick little session. At any rate, guys, thanks again for stopping here at the Photo Video Show. I'm your host, Mark Puckett, and I will see you guys again on the next one. Peace.